Send us a sign, Lord. We need a sign from you.
Hey, wait a minute. I know that voice.
Are we guilty of arousing your rage? Did we do it? Speak with your tongue of fire, Lord. Purge us with unrelenting justice. Send us a sign. Is this our doing? Are you punishing us for our arrogance? Unleash your thunderous voice, Lord. Release us from this intolerable uncertainty. Did we do it? Send us a sign.
I'm getting a strong impression that man's a fanatic and a little bit deranged, but his sermon made me curious. What could he mean by, we did it?
Did we do it? Are we the guilty ones?
Considering the condition of the rest of the church, it's amazing that the stained glass window is still in place and practically intact. Such little light that gets in from the street gives it a ghostly appearance. The only statue in this place still standing, it's Saint, what's his name? Patron saint of, who knows what. I'm afraid that if I ever was a believer, all that information has also been blanked. This column fragment must have fallen off one of the walls during the catastrophe. Now it's keeping the pedestal of the statue company.
That is your sign.
The catastrophe caused a lot of damage to the statue's pedestal. The fact that the statue is still standing is a miracle.
Illuminate us with your fiery
Seated on these disarranged
Lord.
pews, some people are listening to the preacher. Others just nod off. I guess they don't have anywhere else to go. This enormous stone cross casts a giant shadow across the aisle of the church. Perhaps that wasn't the original intention, but the result is pretty gloomy and menacing. That must be Reverend Blake, the preacher I heard about in the camp. I don't understand a word of that man's sermon, and I'm afraid the other faithful don't either. Could that be the reason why everyone reveres him so much? I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle of his sermon. That would be rude.
Send us a sign.
A few parishioners listened to the words of the preacher, mesmerized. Although I'm sure that, like me, they can't decipher the meaning of his mystical rants either.
The ruins of the temple.
A handful of tiny shards of brightly colored glass, the remains of the stained glass window on this side of the church, destroyed by the great wave.
The thunderous voice of your angels through
the remains of the stained glass window that went with the intact one on the other side of the door of the church. The great wave must have shattered it. Judging from its girth, this giant must have lived for hundreds of years before someone got the bright idea of cutting it down. Now the stump is guarding the entrance to the park. It's one of the ways into the city's sewer system. The Great Wave wrecked this place. Did the same thing happen down there? So, let's see. Impossible. It's not that it's super heavy. It's that there's hardly any place to insert your fingers to lift this manhole cover. This fence protects the compound on all four sides, as impenetrable and menacing as the one around the refugee camp. It seems like barbed wire barricades are the only architecture possible in this new world. It's rather disconcerting to see such a small building surrounded by such extreme security measures. Could this be the medical center people have been telling me about? I can't see any entrance for pedestrians from here, which would seem to indicate that you can only get inside the compound through that barrier.
This entrance is reserved for authorized motor vehicles only. Get away from it. Move on.
What the hell? Those savages don't get around. I'd better avoid getting too close to that area, at least on foot. A bucolic fountain covered with ivy and moss. The park's desolation gives it an air of mystery from the side of the fence. In its day, it must have been home to a school of goldfish. which I suppose are now gradually decomposing inside it. These are the remains of the fish that used to swim around in the fountain. It looks like the catastrophe caught them by surprise, too. Ugh, the smell they give off is nauseating. You can smell these dead creatures from several yards away. I have no intention of picking up those rotten fish with my hands, to say nothing of putting them in my pocket. Strange. The soil here seems darker and less packed than the soil around it. In fact, the mud in this part of the ground is a bit damp and mushy. My fingers even leave marks in it when I touch it. The park is closed down, and the front gate is locked shut. If I want to get in there, it won't be through the gate. Southside Park. Would you believe it? This must be the famous suicide park I've been hearing so much about. Huh. The pun is as witty as it is macabre. Closed for public health reasons is written on this piece of wood nailed to the stump. Wait a minute. Health with no A? The nails that held up the sign announcing the closure of Suicide Park. They're incredibly rusty. But considering the epidemic of the dissolved, tetanus is the least of my worries at the moment. A piece of wood with a handwritten sign. Closed for public health reasons. Judging from the handwriting and the spelling mistake, I assume the author of the message was one of those animals in uniform. They come from one of the church's broken stained glass windows. They're pretty and eye-catching, and have a nice variety of colors.
Illuminate us with your fiery voice, Lord. Send us a sign.
Let's see. If I wedge one of the ends of the plank under the statue's pedestal, the other part will rest directly on the base of the toppled column.
The thunderous voice of your angels through the gash. That is your
A wooden
sign.
plank wedged under the foot of the religious statue, acting as a lever with rather blasphemous intentions.
We're waiting, Lord. Did we do it? Illuminate us. Send us a sign with your just and vengeful arm. Is this our fault? Listen! It's the fiery breath of God. The Lord has sent us his sign. And I was right. It is all our fault. We did it. And we have aroused his fury.
But what the hell's going on here?
Look, that's the sign. Forgive us, Lord. Forgive us. Repent, all ye sinners.
It's the atmospheric phenomenon I've been hearing so much about. That infernal sound coming from the crack in the sky. It's terrifying.
That is the sign. We did it. Forgive us, Lord. Forgive us. My children, God has spoken to us with his darkest voice. Haven't you heard him? But there's still time. All is not lost. We still have time. Salvation lies in the place where we must return to the ruins of the temple. We must return. We must.
Among all the fragments of the stained glass window scattered on the floor, there's one big piece of glass. Well, look at that. Next to this enormous hunk of glass, the colored glass shards I picked up earlier look ridiculous. I'd better get rid of them. Reverend Blake is totally overwhelmed. It looks like the crack in the sky is having a profound effect on him. The man's message intrigues me. We did it. We did it. Hello. I heard your sermon and...
Yeah, God has shown us his sign. He has finally spoken to all of us. With his thunderous voice, He has revealed the unknown. We did it. It's all our fault. We did it. But there's still time. All is not lost. There's still time to avoid it. The head of the lion above the flames that holds the key to everything.
But what is it we did?
Time's the will of God. It is his heart and his hammer. The centuries and the ages belong solely to him. The celestial empire is a divine clock. Time rotates around God. Its hands are his angels and archangels. Now I see it all clearly. How could we have been so stupid? Our arrogance had enraged him. That's what we did.
This man is definitely crazy. Nothing he says makes any sense.
I beg you, leave my brother in peace. He's very upset.
We did what? I'm sorry, but I didn't understand a word you just said.
We sullied his name. We didn't know that each second is a drop of Christ's blood, and that only he can reign over the interval, over the infinite mysticism of the fragment. Only he can reign over time with his incandescent omnipotence, and we were unable to see it. And now he is enraged, and we're to blame. That's what we did.
I still don't understand what it is we did.
Each cycle is a fluorescent gust of God's will, don't you see? Can't you see it? He reigns over the days and the hours from the inscrutable luminescence of his dwelling place. And we are just instants that slip through his fingers. Time is his, and his alone. And we tried to wrest it from him. That's what we did.
But what is it we did?
Time is the will of God. It is his heart and his hammer. The centuries and the ages belong solely to him. The celestial empire is a divine clock. Time rotates around God. Its hands are his angels and archangels. Now I see it all clearly. How could we have been so stupid? Our arrogance had enraged him. That's what we did.
What signs are you referring to?
The dark angels of God clamor madly through the open wound that is bleeding the kingdom of heaven dry. Haven't you heard? They were speaking with a thunderous voice. God is furious. That is his sign.
I suppose in his delirium, the man has mistaken that strange sound coming from the gash in the sky left by the great wave as a sign from the heavens. He's definitely lost his mind.
Please be so kind as to leave us in peace. Can't you see that my brother is very agitated?
I assume you're referring to the atmospheric phenomenon in the sky caused by the great wave.
No! It's the stench of human arrogance that made the gears of the gates of hell grind. And now they're opening up like a festering wound to swallow us all. Can it be that you haven't heard it? That is his sign.
Excuse me, but I don't think that was a divine sign.
We've lacerated the sacred skin of the shroud God enveloped us in. We've betrayed him. We've stabbed him with our infinite arrogance. And you can see the mark etched on the heavens. Through that gash, Lucifer has shattered our name from on high. Satan is calling each and every one of us by name. Can't you hear it? That is his sign.
Tell me, what is it that we can still prevent?
The wrath of God, the destruction of man. There's still time. We did it, but we still have time. The key is in the ruins of the temple. We have to find the ruins of the temple. Look for the head of the lion above the flames. Bring me the head of the lion above the flames while there's still time.
But this church is already in ruins. It hardly has any walls or a foundation left. You're already in the ruins of the temple.
No, you're mistaken. Bring me the head of the lion above the flames.
That's enough. Stop tormenting my brother. He's exhausted.
The head of the lion above the flames? That sounds absurd. It makes no sense. I think it's best that I leave you in peace.
Yes, leave my brother in peace.
There's still time. There's still time. Bring me the head of the lion above the flames.
She meditates in silence, resigned and exhausted. Considering the mental state of Reverend Blake, I guess it falls to her to take care of him night and day. I'll do this very carefully, so that the glass doesn't break in two. Perfect. The hole I've dug is big enough to get to the other side of the fence. Good God. There are dozens, hundreds of corpses hanging from the branches. What could have drawn all these people here? What kind of pain? What kind of desperation brought them here? These are the corpses of ordinary people who were living their ordinary lives in their ordinary little worlds up to a very short time ago. Could any of them have imagined meeting an end like this back then? Forgotten and nameless, swaying in the breeze like marionettes. And all those savages in uniforms did was close the park. They didn't even bother to cut their bodies down from the trees. I'm afraid that tonight, there are too many dark stars to count in Suicide Park. Although the crows have already done a thorough job on him, from what's left, I'd say that the corpse belongs to a young man, barely of legal age, one of the many dark stars in the park. That strikes me as disrespectful, and I don't think would do anything for me. With the noose around its neck, the corpse's body sways in the wind like a rag doll. Impossible. One of its ends is tied to the crowbar, and the other... well, the other is also tied to something. An iron crowbar buried like a stake. Right now, the other end is around the neck of a corpse. One of the many dark stars in the park. Although the crows have already done a thorough job on him, from what's left, I'd say that the corpse belongs to a young man, barely of legal age. A rotting bench overlooking purgatory. It looks like the kid who hanged himself from this tree climbed up on this and then jumped with the rope around his neck. This vegetation is so dense that all you can see are some flattened metal posts in there. There's no doubt that nature has taken over this corner of the city. So much so that I'm afraid that this is the end of my little stroll. It's impressive. The park was able to devour the fence effortlessly. The metal bars became like plasticine, molded by the whims of the vegetation. Wherever I look, I see corpses hanging from these branches, some so recent that the shadows of their faces make it seem like they're following you with their gaze. The trees and bushes are so close together here that I can hardly push the branches to one side with my hands. The thorns in these bushes are jabbing into me like metal spikes. I'm not going to be able to open up a path this way. It's an old rope, but in good condition, considering how long it's been exposed to the elements, but the stench it gives off is nauseating. I'm glad I have it with me. A sturdy metal crowbar is a good traveling companion in this new world. The crowbar fits perfectly into the hole in the manhole cover. It's one of the ways into the city's sewer system. The Great Wave wrecked this place. Did the same thing happen down there? Wait a minute. I'm not going to climb down any further. It's totally dark in there, and it would be crazy to go into these sewers without any light. Maybe with the help of the crowbar, I can get the subway sign off the wall. Damn it! I've managed to tear it down, but the subway sign is broken in two. A subway sign split in two. That's what happens when you try to rip something off a wall without the right tools. I agree that violence is sometimes the shortest path between 2 points, but considering how heavy this padlock and the chain are, I'm not sure that brute force is going to help me open this door. As dead as that tree is, it still looks strong enough to tie the rope to. Before I go down, I'll leave the heavy stuff here, in case the rope doesn't support my weight. Underneath the surface, there must be many more of these stone things I see sticking out of the water. No doubt they're the remains of a structure that sank here. It seems like a small fragment of one of them is loose. A small piece of sculpted marble. It's the head of an animal above what looks like flames or an open fire. Could it be a lion's head? I'll get my stuff. This tangle of metal was a driver's door once upon a time. Neglect and rust have left it completely stuck. Okay, let's see if I can open this. Got it. Blah. It looked better from outside. Rainwater has seeped into the car. Now it's damp and mildewed, and it seems like the seat cover on the driver's side is a little loose. Let's see. I'm sure that if I tug on it a little... Good. The upholstery came off along with one of the elastic bands that was holding it to the seat. It's the scrap of fabric that was used as a seat cover in the abandoned car. Dirty, damp, and mildewed. I'm afraid it's seen better days. It serves its purpose to a T. If you stretch it in both directions, the band becomes longer. And if you release it, well, I'd better not do that. A well-stocked arsenal of that liquid that looks like that rat poison everyone here is drinking.
Hi, Mike. So what brings you here?
Do the words Beechwood Oracle mean anything to you?
No. Sorry, dude. Doesn't ring a bell. What is it? Some kind of riddle or play on words?
I don't know. Someone told me about it, and I'm curious. That's all. I should be going now.
Fine, Mike. You're welcome anytime. Remember, dude, here we can get you whatever you need. No questions asked.
This old metal stool serves as a table. The truth is that its unfortunate appearance doesn't exactly invite you to sit on it. Of course, it's a lion. The head of a lion above the flames. The head of the lion above the flames. I think this must be yours.
The head of the lion. The head of the lion above the flames. The ruins of the temple still exist. Salvation is still possible. We can prevent it. We can still prevent it. Don't you understand? The annihilation of time. The wrath of God for our arrogance. There's still time. I have to return to the ruins of the temple. I have to go back to the ruins of the temple.
Wait a minute! Whew. There's no question in my mind, this man is a complete lunatic.